My name is Ria, and if there is one sentence that can still make my pulse spike instantly, it's this one: promise you won't get mad. My brother said it casually, almost jokingly, like he was asking to borrow a charger or eat the last slice of pizza, but something in the way he avoided my eyes told me this wasn't small. It wasn't harmless, and when he finally showed me what he had been hiding, I realized that sentence wasn't a request at all, it was a warning. A warning that whatever came next would change the way I looked at him. And maybe the way I looked at my entire life. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind of quiet, lazy day where nothing dramatic is supposed to happen. I was at my apartment folding laundry, half listening to a podcast, when my phone buzzed. It was my younger brother, Ethan. We didn't talk every day, but we were close in that easy, sibling way. No effort, no formal check-ins, just an unspoken understanding that we were always there if the other needed something. His message was short: "Can I come over? I need to show you something." No emojis, no jokes. That alone made me uneasy because Ethan never texted like that unless something was wrong. I typed back immediately asking if he was okay, and all he replied was, "Please, just trust me." The same words I'd heard him say 1,000 times when he wanted to borrow my car, or when he'd broken a lamp as a kid, or when he was hiding a bad grade from mom. But this time his words felt heavier, like they were carrying something sharp inside them. When he arrived, he didn't hug me like he usually did. He stepped into my entryway slowly, like he was walking into a room where he expected bad news. His shoulders were tense, his gaze flicking around my living room as if he was checking for someone else. I closed the door behind him and immediately asked, "Ethan, what's going on?" He swallowed hard. "Can we sit?" he asked, and I felt that strange, sinking feeling you get right before your stomach drops on a roller coaster. We sat on my couch, and he leaned forward with his elbows on his knees, rubbing his hands together like he was trying to warm them up even though my apartment wasn't cold. "What happened?" I asked again, keeping my voice calm. I was trying not to scare him, trying not to jump to worst-case scenarios, but then he looked up, and his eyes were glossy in that way that made my chest tighten. "Promise you won't get mad," he said. I let out a short laugh, half disbelief, half nervousness. "That depends," I said. "Did you crash my car, steal money, join a cult?" I expected him to at least smirk. Ethan always smirked, but he didn't smile at all. He stared at the carpet like it was the safest place in the room. My laugh died. "Ethan," I said softly, "what did you do?" He took a deep breath, then exhaled like he'd been holding it for hours. "Just promise," he whispered. That was the moment I realized something important. When someone asks you to promise not to get mad, they're usually trying to control how you're allowed to feel about what they're about to reveal. It's a way of preloading your reaction with guilt. If you react honestly, they can accuse you of breaking your promise, and if you swallow your anger to keep your promise, they get to escape the consequences. I didn't fully understand that at the time, but I felt the trap closing in around my chest. Still, he looked terrified, and my instinct was to protect him, not corner him, so I said carefully, "Okay, I promise I'll listen, but I'm not promising I won't have feelings." He nodded quickly, like that was enough. Then he pulled out his phone, unlocked it, and held it with both hands for a second like it weighed too much. "Before you say anything," he said, "I need you to know I didn't mean for this to happen." My heart started pounding. "Show me," I said. He turned the screen toward me. At first, my brain couldn't process what I was seeing. It was a screenshot of a group chat, and at the top of the screen was a name that made my vision blur. Ria, my full name. Not a nickname, not a joke, just my name. Staring back at me in black letters, under it were dozens of messages, threads upon threads, some long, some short, some filled with laughing emojis, some with screenshots, some with voice note icons that made my stomach twist. It was a group chat about me, not a support group, not a "how do we help Ria" chat. It was commentary, judgment, entertainment. Like my life was a show and everyone had front row seats. I felt my mouth go dry. "What is this?" I whispered. Ethan's voice came out small. "It's a group chat," he said, like he didn't know what else to call it. I scrolled, my fingers shaking. The names in the chat hit me one by one like punches: Mom, Dad, Aunt Lisa, Cousin Jamie, even Tara, a family friend who had hugged me at my last birthday party and told me she was proud of me. I saw my mother's profile picture next to messages that made my throat tighten. I saw my father's name next to lines that weren't angry but worse, dismissive, condescending, like he was talking about a stranger, not his daughter. And then I saw Ethan's name, not as much as the others, but it was there: laughing emojis, short responses, silence at moments when silence felt like agreement. "Why?" The word came out cracked. "Why would they do this?" Ethan rubbed his face. "It started as concern," he said. "Like, they said you were making decisions they didn't." Understand, dating the wrong people, moving out, being independent, mom was stressed, dad was mad. And Aunt Lisa, you know how she is, she loves drama, he swallowed. At first it was just them venting, then it became a thing. I kept scrolling. I saw screenshots of my social media posts dissected like evidence. I saw comments about my clothes, my job, my friends. I saw a message from my aunt quoting something I had said privately to my mom months ago, something I had only said because I was scared. And I needed reassurance. Reading it in that chat, rewritten into a joke, made my stomach flip, my skin felt hot. Like I wanted to crawl out of it. You told them stuff, I said. I looked up at Ethan. Voice trembling, he shook his head quickly. Not me, mostly mom. She tells them everything. His voice broke. I swear, Rhea, I didn't share your secrets. But the damage was already in my chest, spreading like ink in water. So you knew, I said. Quieter now, you've known this whole time, Ethan's shoulders dropped. Yes, how long? I asked. He hesitated. And I hated that hesitation because it meant the answer was worse than I wanted. Almost a year. He whispered. A year, a full year of my life being discussed without me. While I showed up to family dinners smiling, while I answered texts from my mom, while I hugged my aunt at holidays, while I thought my family was just family, I felt tears burn behind my eyes, but anger was rising too, thick and hot. You promised you wouldn't get mad, Ethan said softly. Like he was trying to remind me of the rule he'd set for my emotions. I stared at him. Don't. I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut. Don't use that on me. That's not fair. He flinched. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't know how to tell you. Why are you telling me now? I demanded. What changed? Ethan's face tightened like he was bracing for impact. Because they're planning something, he said. My blood went cold. Planning what? He swallowed hard. An intervention. I blinked. An intervention for what? I'm not on drugs. I'm not gambling. I'm not. It's not that kind of intervention, he said quickly. It's like a family confrontation. They think you're spiraling. They think your life is off track. They want to sit you down and set you straight. And he stopped, eyes filling, and they wanted me to help convince you. The room felt like it was shrinking. I could hear my own heartbeat. I could hear the faint buzz of my refrigerator. Everything else felt muffled. So they were going to corner me, I said slowly, and tell me what to do with my life. Ethan nodded. Miserable? Yes. I stared down at the phone again. At the messages stacked like bricks, I saw my mother writing. She never listens. I saw my aunt writing. She thinks she's better than us. I saw my father writing. She'll come crawling back. Each line was a crack in a foundation I didn't realize I'd been standing on. I set the phone down carefully, like it might explode if I moved too fast. My hands were shaking. Send me everything, I said. Ethan looked up sharply. What? Every screenshot, I repeated, voice steady despite the tremble in my body. Every message thread. I need the whole thing. He hesitated. Rhea, are you sure? It's going to hurt. It already hurts. I said, but I'd rather know the truth than keep living inside their version of me. He nodded slowly and started forwarding files to my phone. My screen lit up again and again. Each notification like another weight landing on my chest. I wanted to stop him. I wanted to cover my ears like a child and pretend none of it existed. But I didn't. I watched the evidence of my private life being passed around like gossip. When Ethan finally stood to leave, he looked like he wanted to say something else. Something that could fix it. But there wasn't anything. He paused at the door. I'm sorry, he said again. I really am. I believed him, and that belief made the betrayal sharper. Because it meant he had cared and still stayed silent. He had loved me and still let it happen. After he left, my apartment felt too quiet. I sat on my couch, staring at my phone, reading messages until my eyes blurred. I saw my mother writing things about me that didn't even sound like she knew me. I saw my father treating my independence like rebellion. I saw people I had trusted describing my pain as drama, and the more I read, the more something inside me hardened, not into cruelty, but into clarity. The next morning, my mom called like nothing was wrong. Her voice was sweet, normal. Good morning. Honey, are you coming over for dinner tonight? For a second I almost answered automatically. Almost played my role, almost pretended. Then I remembered the chat, the screenshots, the jokes, the intervention. My throat tightened. No. I said. There was a pause. No. I know about the group chat, I said calmly. Silence, long enough that I could hear her breathing. Then, softly, Ethan told you. Yes, her tone shifted, defensive now. Rhea, you're misunderstanding. I'm not. I cut in. I read it. Another pause. Then she sighed, like I was exhausting her. We were worried about you, she said, as if concern could excuse humiliation. Worried enough to mock me? I asked. Worried enough to share things I told you in confidence. Her voice sharpened. You're being dramatic. That word dramatic was the same weapon they'd always used when I didn't behave the way they wanted. Hearing it now After seeing the truth, didn't make me doubt myself. It made me furious. No, I said. I'm being honest, and I'm done being discussed like I'm not a person. She tried to cry then. I could hear it in her voice, the shaky breath. The emotional turn. I didn't mean it like that, she said. You know I love you. I believe you love me, I said, but you don't respect me. And I can't keep giving you pieces of my life when you hand them to other people. I hung up before she could answer, my hand shaking so hard I had to set the phone down with both hands. In the days after, the family reacted exactly the way the chat predicted. My aunt messaged, furious, saying I was tearing the family apart. My dad sent one cold text telling me I was being ungrateful. Tara tried to smooth things over with a long paragraph about good intentions. Nobody said we were wrong. Nobody said we violated your trust. They all framed it as my reaction being the problem, not their betrayal. Ethan called once, voice small. They're mad at me, he admitted. I closed my eyes. I know, I said, and I'm sorry for that. I paused, then added quietly, but I'm glad you told me. Are you going to cut them off? He asked. I didn't have a perfect answer. It wasn't as simple as cutting people off like trimming a string. Family ties aren't clean. They tangle around memory and habit and love, even when the love is flawed. I'm going to set boundaries, I said. I'm going to stop feeding them information they don't deserve, and I'm going to protect myself. That was the first time I said it out loud, protect myself. It felt strange, like speaking a new language. Growing up, protecting yourself from family wasn't something we talked about. We talked about loyalty, we talked about sacrifice, we talked about keeping peace. But peace at the cost of your dignity isn't peace, it's surrender. Weeks passed. The chat went quiet, or at least, they stopped including Ethan. He told me later they blamed him for betraying the family. The irony almost made me laugh. They called him a traitor for telling the truth, but they never called themselves traitors for turning my life into entertainment. And here's what I learned from that day. From that sentence. From the way Ethan's voice shook when he asked me not to be mad. People say promise you won't get mad when they know they're about to show you something that should make you angry. It's not a request for calm. It's a request for permission to escape consequences. I didn't give them that permission anymore. I didn't storm into their houses screaming. I didn't start public fights. I didn't post screenshots online. I did something quieter and stronger. I stopped performing for them. I stopped explaining. I stopped trying to convince them I was worthy of respect. I let their silence and defensiveness reveal what they were. Ethan and I rebuilt slowly. He apologized again and again, and over time I saw him making different choices. He stopped laughing along. He started calling things out. He grew a spine he hadn't needed before because he'd never been the target. That's what secrets do. They teach you who will protect you when it costs them something. And now, when I think about that day, I don't remember the laundry I was folding or the podcast playing. I remember the way my chest tightened when Ethan said those words. I remember the moment I saw my name at the top of that group chat. I remember the feeling of being watched from behind a curtain. But I also remember the moment after when the shock faded and something else took its place, clarity. Because once you see how people talk about you when you're not in the room, you stop being confused about why you always feel small around them. Once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. And once you stop living for their approval, you finally start living for yourself.